Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we're talking about something that affects so many of us, but that we don't always speak openly about: our mental health. Specifically recognizing the signs that you or someone you know might need support, and understanding the help that's always available through the NHS Talking Therapies. And before we begin, let's start with a statistic from a recent NHS survey exploring how confident people feel about recognizing conditions such as post-traumatic stress disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, social anxiety disorder, specific phobias, body dysmorphic disorder, and panic disorder. Only 2 in 5 respondents, 38%, said that they felt confident they could recognize the symptoms of these conditions. So that means 62%, almost 2/3, weren't confident that they could recognize the signs. With me today are 2 incredible guests. Dr. Amos Ogunkoya, he's a GP, a sports medic, and reality TV star, known for being the youngest first-team doctor in the Premier League and a contestant on the BBC show The Traitors. And Tyler West, radio DJ, television presenter, and DJ best known for hosting Kiss FM, Drive Time, and breakfast shows, as well as appearing on Strictly Come Dancing in 2022. Let's see if you got the moves, bro. Can I officially call this year the most handsome podcast I've ever had?
Hey,
listen,
man. This is why you get married for a second time, man.
If you've ever said that before, if ever I catch another video of you, Marvyn, sitting there saying this is the most...
Yeah, this is literally how he starts podcasts.
I will report the video.
I would have been lying that time. This is 100% the most handsome podcast. Like, I feel like I can go part-time. That's how handsome this podcast is. I don't need to work that hard.
Let's do that.
How are you both doing, man?
I'm all right, man. I'm glad. You just complimented me, so I'll take it.
Yeah, look, you're
I'm sorry, I don't hear it
now.
As it should, though. But by the way, if we don't compliment each other, who's going to do it?
You lot don't get compliments outside of here.
That's how you know he gets
Innit?
compliments.
By the way, I went on his Instagram and he had no top on, so I was like, I get it. I understand.
It was like, wait, don't you get like people yell at you from buses? I was like, no.
They don't scream at me when my top is off. I'm so sorry.
Don't you get compliments?
Some of us live a normal life. Go on, tell us about your life.
Tell me about what happens.
What's going on here? The insecurity in this room has gone wild.
No.
Don't try to switch it
Do you
around.
know what I mean? He was like, do you not get compliments?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw it. No, people come up to you on the street and just say, "Oh, hey, like your trainers." Do you know what I mean? Like little compliments like that. Do you ever give compliments?
All the time.
All the time. Yeah.
I affirm a lot of people all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it makes me.
I just affirmed you. No.
Yeah,
I'll take
that.
that.
Makes me feel a good person.
I thought that's just an intro.
You're looking at us suspect as if we've done something to you.
No.
Accept your blessings, bro. The world is different for you.
I'm very grateful.
Should we talk about your privilege real quick?
It's been done.
He's like,
this is it. It all makes sense now.
yeah, it's like, what?
What's your life like?
People just don't give you shit. Oh no.
No, when he said that, I was like, no. Like, of course not.
Never. Like what?
Like, hey, excuse me, tall man that I've just met. Really like your beard. It's like, no. That doesn't happen.
I actually got beard envy. I shaved mine off, man.
Beard envy.
I shaved mine off literally like 2 days ago, and I was like, regretted it, man.
I shaved my hair off, and I didn't have a beard at the time, and I realised how ugly my chin was when I had it done. So then that's why I was like, I can never touch my beard ever again.
We're not as handsome as we think when you remove.
When you take off a beard,
It's a lot, isn't it?
my partner Molly said to me, she was like, like, because we're engaged, right? And she was like, when you get married, it's like in sickness and in health and stuff like that. And she said, when you shave your beard off, it's a sickness. she said, don't do that again. It ain't happening.
You know what's crazy? Yeah? My partner kept on looking at me and like she was trying to convince herself that she still finds me attractive. She was like, yeah.
When you
when I shaved my chin off,
the negotiation,
I was like, this is going back on immediately.
My chin shrunk. Yeah, it was bad.
Brutal, man.
You got a strong beard, though.
You got good
I
beard.
do okay, but women have become so honest.
I do okay. Yeah, man, you just want to give a compliment. Do you know he gets them? He just doesn't hear them.
Thanks,
And
guys.
also, I'm gonna
Listen,
say,
whoa.
I'll say one
Whoa.
last thing. What is this? You man are blamming it. I thought I train a lot. I thought,
He's
I
giving
work
it out now.
Listen,
I'll
no, because
take it.
you lot, this ain't even these ain't slim fit shirts. Yeah, you make them slim fit. Do you know what I mean?
Are you
I
done?
buy the size lower though. That's the
Are you
decision.
done? Are you done?
Okay.
Because you know why, yeah? I've observed, that both of you have clearly done therapy or are well educated because the way you keep flipping things through a psychological lens, I've observed it on 2 occasions already.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, you may be therapized. I'm coached. Okay. I know some stuff too.
It's my first rodeo.
No, I've been here. I actually have a really dope question for you, right? And I'm going to keep asking it until we get there, right? How are you?
Oh,
In all honesty, I've been so like, 1 minute I'm in fight or flight. Next minute, I don't know what day it is. Like I've been going through it, like between emotions. But where the one thing I always say is that the world doesn't stop spinning, right? The world don't stop moving around. So whenever actually you want time to like process things, sometimes you don't have that luxury. That's one of my biggest flaws, is that I'm spinning so many plates that I have this like, I'm petrified. I have this fear within me that if one plate falls off, everything's just going to fall over.
before we started doing this, I was asking what your day was like. You do so much,
Bro, it's crazy. Do you know what it is? It's because when I was younger, I didn't have nothing. Like me and my family, we've come from nothing. So then anytime I get an opportunity, I'm like, well, of course I got to do that. I'm gassed to go do that. I'm gassed to go over here.
How long have you been in that state?
Oh gosh, 12 years. 12 years.
Yeah.
Since I was 18.
wow.
It's a really long time.
It's been non-stop. But then also it's like when you do something which makes you feel so, like you feel so proud of yourself and you're like, okay, that's a stepping stone. I've got to keep going, because you don't know when it's all going to run out. And that's the sort of, that either helps you, that could be your biggest blessing, that mentality, or it can be your biggest curse.
Yeah.
Whichever way you go around it.
I feel like maybe the industry creates that feeling. Because you're not like a full-time employee. You don't work at like...
You're freelance.
Yeah. And so if you don't do incredibly well every single time, there's a day where it would be like, we're changing the way we're doing things.
Yeah.
And then what happens then?
But the funny thing is that you've just jumped to immediately the industry and the work aspect of it all. But I'm talking even like of just being able to, I've got to check in with that person. Then I've got to be accountable over there, like in my personal life, away from work, away from cameras, away from social media. It's like there's so many spinning plates for me. Is there's a plate for work, there's a plate for family, there's a plate for friends, there's a plate for self-care. And it's like, how on earth does anybody do this? Like, and have that balance? Finding that balance is something that I'm going to live with for the rest of my life.
How many people rely on you, do you think?
How many people rely on me?
Yeah.
Family-wise, family and friends, like my mum, without a doubt, like I'm always there as a support network, but she doesn't necessarily rely on me because obviously my mum, she's like, I'm her son. She's like, she just wants the best for me. But how many people do I put before myself is another level. Like,
10?
I mean, you got
more than
kids,
10?
right? Huh?
More than 10? 5?
On a day-to-day basis, it's between like 5 and 10. If somebody was to call me, if somebody was to message me, I'll be like, yeah, okay, this is a priority right now. Like, forget whatever I've got to do. I'll fit myself in later. I've always just been like that. I'm always a giving person. You've got kids, right?
Yeah.
So have you seen like that change in sort of from the old you pre-kids to when you then had responsibility of having kids?
So I would say that my moment came after realizing how I was doing things didn't work. So I don't know if there's like a picket fence idea we have of like get married, have kids, like get a second house.
Yeah.
I did all of that. And then like I was more miserable than I'd ever been.
Crazy.
And stuck. And it was nobody's fault but my own.
Yeah.
Because I went into it with like really idealistic ideas of like what men should do, what family is, how it will work. And I just kept on having car crashes. Like I just kept on walking into walls. And then I went and did a year away, effectively in and out. When I came back, I started to rebuild everything brick by brick. And I just have a healthy relationship with my children and what they mean, my partner and what that means, capitalism, work, what that means, like friends and what that means. And so it becomes sustainable to me. But I needed to have the crash, because when I was ideologically driven, it was like, I believe in like family. Like this is going to be great.
Has to happen.
And if I work 6 jobs, 9 incomes, I will be loved more.
Yeah.
No.
Like,
you need to be present.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. One thing you just mentioned there about like you taking a year, I went through like, it was before, and I went through like a traumatic breakup and everything like that. And I was working I was here, there and everywhere. And then it takes that sort of crash for you to then be able to take a step back and reassess and spend some time on your own where you can get yourself a little bit straighter, mentally, physically, like self-care. You don't realize until you actually have to stop. You physically can't go anywhere else. You've crashed. You're mentally having a breakdown. It's like, that's the moment where you then reevaluate all the things that got you to that point and said, all right, well, that recipe, if I do that again, it's going to come out the same outcome. It's not going to taste good.
There's a thing of like, it feels like 30 to 50-year-olds really struggle with like accessing mental health support. Why do you think that is?
With accessing, I think it's ingrained within us from just like the world that we're living in right now. I remember simply going back to, I went to an all-boys school, right?
Same.
And when you would fall over in the playground and you're like, oh, your eyes start tearing up and everything like that, people be like, oh, what are you crying for? Like straight away. And don't get me wrong, like you could get taken to the office and the teachers will give you that blue piece of tissue paper and that would solve everything. That's the ultimate healer. I don't know what magic is in that blue paper. I'll just put a bit of wet tissue on it and it's fine. But it's like, it's that idea is like you fall over and it's like, oh, what are you crying for? And I'm like, but hold on a second, like if I fall over and break my arm and you say, oh, be strong, it doesn't just fix my arm back together again all of a sudden. There's still going to be hurt, pain, and a whole process to get around that. But I think it's ingrained within our society and just the idea of what things are meant to be or what's meant to be seen as strong. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's interesting listening to you both talk, and it's like, it's really clear that you guys put other people before you. And I think that's why that age period, 30 to 50, is probably the one where people look after themselves the least. Yeah. And things aren't like you were saying of like, it doesn't, so you didn't make a conscious decision not to look after yourself. It just, you just have less time to do so. And it becomes less of a priority. And I think that's what happens. People I call it sleepwalking into a life they don't want. Like you like, and it's either like, I'm thinking I can, when you're talking, I was like, I'm in that stage. I'm being told that all of these things are really important. I'm working myself to like medicine. You can just do that. You can just get on this treadmill
and keep going.
Literally, you just can. Like, there's always more exams. I'm doing an exam in 2 days. Generally, I'm doing an exam in 2 days, and I'm going to Scotland to do it. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're talking. I was like, I'm doing that. I'm doing that. And I'm supposed to be hyper aware of this. Like I'm holding up to other people's values. Not mine. Like I don't.
Where does that come from? Because you talked about like, is this like a parental thing? And so, for example, for me, having a single parent household, I just didn't want to be poor, like as an adult, and that drove me into about early 30s. And then I was like, that's a stupid idea because at some point you make more money than you ever consider, and you're still running. And I never actually got to experience life. I would travel. I had great friends, but I wasn't experiencing life. Like I wasn't pushing myself and doing brave things. I should have climbed a mountain or something. So I tried to find the most difficult things that I found emotionally scary, and I started to do them. So the 10-day silent retreat for me is the best thing I've ever done. It's like the only thing I advise everyone, no matter what their background is, go sit by yourself.
You go in a room, you sit by yourself. Is it darkness or
no? You're on a compound. So imagine I'm on a farm.
This sounds like a
compound horror movie.
You're on a compound in South Africa.
I'm joking.
You are silent for the whole time. You meditate 11 hours a day. There are 20 people, 10 men and 10 women, but they're segregated, also doing it. There's a lion retreat over here when you can hear the lions at 5:45 getting their morning and night feed at 5:45 p.m. You get a relationship to the stars because you know what time it is through the stars. There's no clocks nowhere. So all there is bells. When the bell goes, you wake up, and when you meditate, and then when the bell goes again, you stop. That could be an hour and a half. Then the bell goes again, you go get breakfast. The bell goes again, you go to the hall, you meditate. The bell goes again, you leave, right? So you start to understand a rhythm by a sound, by the sky, by the sound of the birds.
That's crazy.
And you leave all of the stuff behind. If you do that, there's no way you come back the same. It's literally impossible.
You wouldn't.
Like, no.
Yeah, that sounds...
You talk more than ever now. You don't want to be silent ever again.
Yeah. Listen...
Do you know what I mean? That's
I'm
what
going back
caused
though.
this.
I'm going back end of this year.
I'm fascinated by it.
That sounds...
It's the most elite thing, and it's also, I call it like an emergency button. Okay. So if you're stuck, and there's no remedies anywhere else, press that button.
Stuck in here,
and it will pull you out.
Yes. Fine.
But I think like we know like NHS are doing a Talking Therapies campaign. That is a solution for those people.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about it? Because I think it's super important. Because I've done it and I really, really, really rate it.
So the campaign is about actually making people more aware about what's available, essentially. And it's about treating mental health as seriously as we treat physical health. And giving people the tools to know that they can talk to people about their common conditions. And actually, if they don't feel right, they can go and discuss that feeling, right? And having that awareness in that space and making sure, and we've had a great conversation today, and we're going to have a great conversation about it further, making sure that we give people that information to equip themselves to do that.
That's powerful.
I remember when I first ever went to therapy and I sat there opposite this guy, this upper class guy, just sat there looking at the clock, waiting for me to get out of the chair. I didn't really feel like he was relating or identifying. I'm having to explain what it's like growing up in a racist neighborhood. I'm having to explain to him some of the stuff that I'm going through on a day-to-day basis before I even get to it. And also, I just didn't want to talk to him. So then I'm like, what? So then that put me off.
It's a cultural thing. I actually think there's a lived experience makes a difference. Like there's something that happened recently, and I remember thinking, why are people so mean? Like it was like, I think something went viral about kids getting free trips to attractions or like parents. Like, I was like, I've been one of those kids. Do you think I want to like? Do you think that I feel good going for like? Do you think those so why are you being so mean about these kids? Do you know what I mean? And it was like clearly the people that are talking about it had never been one of those children, and it makes it really important that their voices to express what it's like to be in that community. And I think that makes it more authentic.
So we have like stress and then we have anxiety. How do you have the signs between the two? Like, because most people are stressed.
So stress tends to be because you have a known stimulus that's causing the stress. It's adaptive, right? So you're supposed to be stressed if a lion is chasing you. But you're not supposed to feel like a lion's chasing you when you're sitting on a bus. That's the difference, right? So
it's a sick way to put it.
So anxiety for me is like disproportionate to the stimulus, and actually the diagnosis of it is when it stops you from being able to do adaptive measures. So if you're crippled by anxiety, it's not survival, right? And anxiety is not always a bad thing. If, for example, I used to do a lot of athletics. If you don't feel nervous before you run a race, you're not going to be able to do what you need to do. But for me, clinically, when someone is not able to like maintain life stuff because of the anxiety, they can't leave their house or their relationships are being damaged. That's when it becomes a pathology.
But people don't want to admit that as well. People don't want to admit that because you're like, no, it can't be the way. That doesn't. I was in such denial for such a long time, coming up with social anxiety, but then I'm like, well, then why haven't you left your bedroom? It was crippling me. It was like I'd wake up with every intention to go up, get outside, go get active. No, that's it. I'm gonna have a good day, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I can't do it. I don't know what it was.
How powerfully can you communicate what that process looked like? Because you said you woke up regularly, ready to go. I think a lot of people won't know what's happening in their inner world to be able to say, actually, I think this might be it.
It's like a wall. Right, it's just like this wall that's just like, and it can come out in so many different shapes and forms. It's evolved. All of the difficulties that I've had with mental health has evolved from me growing up, right? So what affected me when I was like 14, the social anxiety that stopped me going out my house was like, I was convinced, to give context, it was like I witnessed a murder when I was 14, outside my house.
Is this someone you knew or a stranger?
No, it was like a local alcoholic, right? And but if it had been different, like 3 minutes before that, if I'd have got like off the bus 3 minutes later, I would have been outside while the guy was getting stabbed, right? And I was watching this from my bedroom window, and it went on for about best part of like 10 minutes, and it was just constantly stabbing and slashing this guy in the road. I've processed. I'm the only key witness at that murder scene, right?
Wow.
And that changed the course of my life forever. But the feelings and thoughts that I went through back then have evolved so much. I've never got rid of that memory. I wake up every single day and I'm like, it's still somewhere in the back of my head. It lives with me constantly. But how I'm able to manage it now is completely different. Back then I was like, well, of course you don't have anxiety. Of course, like I didn't understand what that was. Like nobody spoke about it like that. And I think the feeling that it gave me was that I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to go outside. Oh, but there's going to be other knives out there, or there's going to be other people out there that are up to no good. And well, if it gets dark, and if it's like this, and if there's so much that it can sort of it's like a domino effect. And now what my social anxiety turns into is completely different to what it was when I was 14.
Yeah, that's quite scary. You know what I think about often is how many young black boys specifically grew up on working class estates and areas witnessed those things and have never had any form of care, help, support.
Yeah.
And I just like walking around.
Yeah.
Because we've become so, what's the word I'm looking for? Like when you're so, like so when some desensitized, you become so desensitized growing up on an estate like that, being in an environment like that. Because, you know, my state was like, it was crazy. There'll be sirens going past every minute. There'll be an argument going off, and then you'll just be like, living on a council estate is also fun as well. Like there is some characters there that you will never meet anywhere else. But it's like when you hear the neighbour screaming, you're like, they're arguing again, and it's like, whereas if you was to do it in like a different, like a nicer, posher area, we would call it, you'd be like, oh, this is a big thing. This is the one thing that's happened in the last 5 years.
It's crazy that you said that, right? Because I went to see my boy in my estate, and we were talking about people's stories, and we were like, no one's story is ending positively.
No.
Like you just get used to it. And there's a really, like, I think Charlemagne says it, I'm tired of people treating mental health as culture.
Yeah.
Like it feels that, like it genuinely feels that, like there's so many manifestations of trauma in our community, which I actually think is just it's mental health. Like there are things that, like you're saying things, I'm like, I've been in parties where things have happened, and I'm like, that's just what part of being growing up, and we just accept that. Like, do you know what I mean? I wonder how much that bleeds into like generational things and people talking about things, and actually the young people nowadays, because we're their elders now, right? And how much of what we accept as normal it's not normal. It's not normal to go, what happened to my man? Oh, he's schizophrenic. Something's happened to him, and you're like, that I know it's a proportionate amount of people that are suffering. That's not normal. No. It isn't, and we kind of like. And I generally think there's a lot of people that think it is normal.
But then do you feel like it has become normal because those are the conditions? Like there are a group of people who have broken out of those norms. And like your story is really traumatic, and then you've managed to find a path out somehow. But often I feel like your path out gets romanticized as like you got out, but they didn't live what it took to get out, and probably who you had to become to get out. That's not available to everybody, right? So I think that we can sometimes romanticize the stuckness of people within our community. And I think about them, like I think about Dope Bad Dads, when we first started, it was like, let's create a norm of where we all go therapy. At that point, out of like 100 people, 2 were going. It was me and another guy. Some people have been like, I talked about it, I Googled it, but weren't going. This is 8 years ago. Now, like 95% of us, 100% are going, if not regularly going.
That's good.
So there has been a shift, but there still seems to be a bit of block for the older generation who like probably haven't considered going.
What do you think that shift was like? Because you said there was like 2 of you that were doing it back then. What do you reckon that shift was?
I think it's when people you respect go and talk about it really powerfully. Like I was really loud, probably annoying to a degree, right? About how much that transformation had gone, because when I was originally stuck, there was no evidence as to why I was stuck. There wasn't a thing, right? And I've grown up in places where seeing that type of stuff, I got through all of that, and then I'm like a father, and then I'm like, oh wait, now I'm stuck. So I was like, how can I not beat this? And really, I just couldn't relate to my children. I was like, I had it up here, like I'm going to be a great dad. And then when it came to like holding them, they would be like, get your hands off me. What are you doing? And I'd be like, yeah, but I'm your father and I love you. And they'll be like, where's my mum? Like, where's my mum? And it used to happen over and over again. And by the 6th month, I literally was like, it was Father's Day, and I was sitting there being like, why are you celebrating me?
Yeah,
I don't even deserve socks. So what are you doing? Like, wow. I remember sitting there and I was so overwhelmed. I just slept because I couldn't think of what else to do. And I remember that there were families just looking at me being like, do you feel good? And I was like, nah, I don't think I do that.
It's just a national celebration.
Was it because you were doing the things that you thought you were supposed to be doing and not getting the outcome you're supposed to get? Is that what that felt like?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And what I needed was a dad who was at the same stage with me saying like, bruv,
I get you.
None of it is working.
Yeah.
Right? You got to do... No one had advice. I went to elders. I went to friends. I went to mothers. I went to anywhere that was like listening and was open to sharing. And there was no real hardcore practical advice. Everything that was practical was like how to navigate women or something. But I was like, I don't have that problem. Like, don't make me... I don't...
This is the thing. The problem. I'm good at that. I'm good.
Yeah. Like,
it's the thing is that it's a moving target, right? The pressures of a life now are disproportionately different to, like, you can't. how can I navigate a world with AI in it?
Yeah,
How
it's
can
crazy.
Do you know what I mean? The pressures. How can I? We talked about like estates. Kids nowadays genuinely can be got at in their bedroom, right? There are people that, and I've seen. I used to work in A&E. There are people who haven't met, but their first meeting is a problem because of something that happened on Snapchat.
Yeah.
Genuinely,
Which is crazy.
Which is meant like it used to be that like I can ruin my life for my toilet. I can ruin my life for I can ruin my life. Ruin it.
Yeah.
That with that kind of pressure, why isn't everyone more anxious? Do you see what I mean? Like that's so it's hard.
Do you think that that's where the development of I don't care as an inner voice that comes out as like an action and a behavior where it's like I don't care. Yesterday the couple who were in their 90s got arrested for racially abusing some people in a park, right?
Really?
And I was just like, the brazenness of hate that's coming out of everybody's mouth, and it's not just identity, it's just like you over there, like screw you online, like I hate you. You must get some sort of like absurd comments that are not based in reality,
just for appearing like. So you got, so I did like Strictly Come Dancing, right? And just for showing my face on there, and then they'll take one look at you, and then you'll get a hateful comment. You'll go into Lorraine. I work on Lorraine show, and I loved working at ITV. But then you go in there, and God forbid if it's me, Andy Peters, and Ranveer presenting at the same time, it's too much. And you're opening yourself up to this world. But it's also, I think the people that are sending these messages are very sad. I think they've got a lot internally that they need to work on in that sense. But it's like you said, the brazenness of just saying I don't care and I'm going to send this message. It's only happening now because of how everything is so developed. Like the access to chat to somebody over the other side of the world. Like somebody posted something on social media and the whole world can comment on it. And the knock-on effect that can have on people's mental health is another level.
Yeah. Can you explain to me, like, if I was to go to therapy, let's just say I have that experience, right? I'm going online, I'm like, this is actually overwhelming, or I'm triggered by a historic memory. What happens in a therapy session? Because I think that's something that people don't understand. It's a bit like a prostate exam. Everyone has an idea of what's going on, and it's not actually the same thing. It's like, let's demystify all of this. Let's start with what happens in a therapy session.
It's complex, but there's different kinds of therapy. Things like you were describing, cognitive behavioral therapy is quite useful for, because it's about challenging your ideas. Any real change has to be self-driven. And it's about giving you the tools to, when you're ill, especially when it comes to mental health, the organ that you need to get yourself out of it is the one that's hurt. So like when you're depressed, essentially depression makes you want to do things that make you more depressed. So you want to isolate, right? Okay. And what therapy does in that situation is having an outside voice to scaffold you to help yourself.
I love scaffolding. So explain scaffolding.
So like, I've had issues with depression, right? And even myself, having someone who's like my interpretation of the world. So like there's studies that show people that interpret neutral faces as more aggressive when they're depressed. So my ability to actually navigate the world, like if someone looks at me, like they could be neutral, but I'm taking that as negative, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Everything just becomes.
So having someone as a soundboard to be like, actually, can we talk about why you feel that way? I actually I don't actually think that was why that person came across. Helps you then bridge that gap to be able to help yourself. So then I'm like, oh, maybe my man wasn't angry at me. And actually my response to that was bad. So next time I see that reaction, and then that little bubble of hope, I call it, allows you to again go building that and help pull yourself out of that.
I said, like, when I first started going therapy, like, so I got referred to CAMS from when I was 14, right? And I started going to therapy, and back then I didn't understand it and I didn't appreciate it because I didn't understand my own emotions, right? And then I said, nah, that's it. I'm never going to therapy ever again. And I was that kid that thought he knew everything. Now it's the best thing that I've ever done because I now understand my emotions, right?
That's sick.
But when you're going into a therapy session, it's weird because it's somebody that is just, it's a third party, it's unattached to you. It's not like in times before when I would talk to my mum about how I was feeling, she would be such a great listener and she would give such care from a one-sided perspective of like, oh, you're my son, it's okay, like, and it would be the reassurance that I was looking for. But then after that, it would be like, oh, Ty, how you feeling today? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm sweet, but I don't need that reminder in my face. So sometimes it was nice to like jump into a therapy session, be able to just let it out all on the table. And sometimes my therapist cannot give me the answer at all. And because it actually doesn't work like that. It's not like they go, oh, well, all you need to do is this, and this, and then you're fixed.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's like you mentioned with the tools. When you get given the tools, it means that then you are ammoed up, like you are prepared for whatever's going to come your way on a week-to-week basis and how to navigate it.
And that's a big thing.
Like I said, when I was like 14, it was different, the things that I needed back then. Now I've got responsibilities. I need, ways how I can bring myself back down to earth. You mentioned about like meditation and things like that, and taking a moment to ground yourself. Like now in the mornings when I get up before I go into like these big hectic days, I have no phones, no anything like that, and I take 20 minutes to myself.
That's sick.
Even as early as I'm getting up, I'm like a night owl, but still, it's like, it's having those moments to reconnect and come back down to earth that keeps me then going strong, because I've got the tools to keep me going from therapy. That was
I think people often think therapy is, how you mentioned it was best way of describing it. It's going to be give me all the answers. Someone's going to go in there and go, this, you got to do this. And I kind of find it difficult when people say, oh, well, therapy is like a gym for your mind. It's like, no, life is the gym. Life is hard. Life is the bit.
It doesn't fix,
it's not, you're not supposed to go to therapy to feel good about it. Like, it's not like inoculation. It's like
nobody's ever come away and said, I had a lit therapy
session.
It was so joke.
You really went deep, right?
It's like, are you sure you went to therapy? That was good. But I imagine, that's one of the misconceptions, that you go in there and someone's going to go, well, it's about self-knowledge. It's supposed to be about discovering why you're like things are the way they are. And helping the tools.
One thing I will say about that is that there's some therapy, because I know I was joking about saying no therapy sessions lit, but there's some therapy sessions that I've had where I've gone in and I've actually been okay, but I've kept it in the diary just so that I can, catch up with my therapist and be like, oh, hey, then it should be like, oh, how's it going? I almost see it as almost like, imagine you got a cookie jar, and all the cookies are the problems. And then you go into the therapy session and you're just giving out the cookies. You're giving out the cookies. You're getting it off your chest. You're emptying the jar. But then you want to fill it with the good cookies, right? So then sometimes when you have those conversations where you don't necessarily have loads to bring to the table of problems, but you're just having a good conversation, you're filling up like this jar with all the good cookies, and it means that you're in a better headspace moving forward. So sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to confess up and lay your cards out all on the table and you've got to have a problem wrong with you. Sometimes therapy is just great for maintenance and getting into your headspace.
A keep in touch day.
Like,
it's like
great.
Well, that's going great based on the work that we did.
Really good. I agree with. Do you know what you're both saying makes sense to me, but I will say something that is about talking therapists is that you guys are well educated in what your issues are, right? I think one of the things that are really good about talking therapies is that sometimes you just don't feel right, and then someone goes, I think this is going on with you, and actually as a doctor I know the power of a diagnosis. I've it's
clarity,
like genuinely. The moment you said something earlier and I wanted to come back to it, when it's like something's wrong, I don't know what's going on, and sometimes I'll do all the tests and I'll say everything's fine, and then I'll see disappointment. Someone comes to me for a physical problem and they go, I'll do their blood test. It's like, it's great, nothing, and they'll be like, oh, I thought you were going to tell me I was anemic or something. Or I was like, because that would explain. And then suddenly you can see it in real time. They're having to confront that like there's nothing physically wrong with me. And then you go through it and they get a diagnosis and it's like, okay, fine, now I know what this is. There's a name to it. I can work out how to deal with it.
Do you feel like the type of therapist you go to, not just like their qualification, but their identity informs like how you feel? Because I started off with a North African woman, and I thought I wanted a woman of color because I felt like something just like a relatable, but I needed a maternal energy. I wasn't ready to go sit with a dude. And I've done black male, white male, and I did a South African therapist. My therapist now is still in South Africa. We have a remote relationship, and I've done the NHS process. I've done it all, but in that, I feel like there's different things that come up when I relate to them. There's different comfort levels. Does that matter as much in your view?
I think it'd be silly to say it doesn't. I think it does. I think people have. I've got a couple of friends who actually are therapists, and you have to have therapy yourself to become a therapist, right? Because we all walk into life. I always say you get the cards you're dealt with in terms of your demographics and who you are and how the world initially initiates with you. regardless of what I am, I'm still a large black man. So when I speak to a patient, I'm aware of that, even though they might not have racist viewpoints, if you've got something that's concerning or something that relates to like violence and stuff like that, that might not be comfortable, and you've got to be aware of those biases. And in a situation when someone's mental health isn't great, they default to what safety is. If you're anxious, and you have to be aware of that, especially as a caregiver, it does matter. For example, there are certain things that people might not feel comfortable divulging to me, but they feel divulging to a female doctor or and I have to be aware of that. I don't take that personally, and I think a good therapist won't take that personally. If you say to your therapist, look, I've had a particular issue with this, if you experience significant amount of racism, you might not want to have a conversation with a Caucasian. And that doesn't mean that you are the patient, right? If you've experienced violence, you might feel comfortable with feminine energy. Do you see what I mean?
I think it's also case by case. Like case by case, and also what you're going through and what you're trying to get from the situation. Some people, again, it's like experiences, right? It's like whatever you've been through and what might be the triggers and so on and so forth. But you know, like for me, it was like, so my therapist is a white woman, but and it's like my mum's a white woman, and when I go and talk to my therapist, it's like it's almost like I don't have any problem. Like she sees me for me, she understands me. She's like one of those people that she hasn't lived and walked in my shoes. She hasn't been through the same sort of experiences like that. But I'm not going to her for that. Although I can definitely vouch for some of my boys and some of the people that I know that have then gone to therapy, that was a big necessity for them. So I think it's very important to have that representation no matter where you go, to give that level of trust so that somebody feels in a safe space to be able to open up. I think it depends on your cases of where you're at.
There's a lot of like acronyms and words that are used and in terms of disorders. Can you just help me in terms of understanding them and communicating the best you can? So what is PTSD?
PTSD, we know more about it, but what it is, and this is definitely specific. So it's having an experience where there is a threat of serious harm or the perceived threat of serious harm or actual physical harm. So someone holding a gun to you can give you PTSD, even regardless of whether you were shot or not. Right? It's the perceived fear, so fearing for your life. And it's, so you have flashbacks. You have that anxiety reaction and you have hypervigilance. So for example, I have friends that have been stabbed or been in a situation where they could have been stabbed and therefore they have PTSD because of that. So there's a lot of people who've been in situations where they have symptoms which I would call PTSD and they never, so a lot of, it was kind of identified more in army veterans, but as people have more stressful lives, and things happen to them, they get it from, there are people walking around PTSD not realizing it.
What's OCD? Because I think that's something that I would never have considered a disorder. I would have just considered like it's a way of navigating or coping. But what's actually
Because
OCD?
people say it, they go, oh, I'm just a bit OCD.
It's like very colloquial how they talk about it.
This is what I mean about how we have to be careful how we communicate about mental health, because it becomes, someone's a bit tidy, they're OCD. OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder, and that's, for some people, it's having rituals, which they use. It's part of the anxiety spectrum. So people that do outward things to calm the anxiety. So like an extreme superstition. So like if I flick my light 10 times to stop, the way I explain it is, I use this to my patients. Imagine you being on a train and someone's throwing like pennies onto the track, right? And they say, well, I'm keeping the elephants off the track. And then their response, and it's like, but what do you mean? It's like, what, do you see any elephants? So it doesn't make sense why they're doing it. But compulsive behavior.
Would you use the word irrational, or is that not comfortable? You're not comfortable using that language?
I don't think it. Sometimes I wouldn't say it's irrational. Sometimes but to the person it feels very, very rational. As in to the clinician, it doesn't. How they make that connection doesn't always seem super clear.
You can't explain why you do it.
It's
just I just have to do it.
So what's a phobia?
So phobia is a fear of something.
Okay, that's pretty
generally
simple.
it's really simple. It's a fear of something. Again,
Spiders.
It might not be it might be rational to you. Like if you were bitten by a dog, you'll be fearful of dog. But it's same. It's all part of the same anxiety spectrum for me.
And then body dysmorphic disorder.
Yeah, that's more complex. That's about how you view yourself and your body. There's a spectrum of like problematic eating to anorexia nervosa, things like and it's getting more prevalent because of social media and people's ideal bodies. But it's essentially not thinking, having an ideal body type that you want to be, or not feeling that you look a certain way.
Yeah. And what's a panic disorder?
Panic disorder is, again, a type of anxiety disorder whereby you get panic attacks. It's the extreme version of anxiety.
So what's a social anxiety?
So
Because I think also this is another language that gets abused, where it's just like people just say they're anxious about everything. If they got like butterflies, it's like I'm anxious.
Yeah.
But they make it sound like a clinical version versus like a
confused. Yeah.
yeah. Is there a difference between butterflies before I do something dope versus like,
yeah. Do you know, there's counter argument for that as well. Are we just better at spotting it? Like, are we? I generally agree with you. I definitely believe that there are people who mischaracterize their feelings, right? They're doing something cool before. Like, if I was getting ready for a 100-meter race and I didn't feel anxious, I'd feel terrible.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's two sides ideas to that sort. There are probably more anxious kids out there because of the fact they're in a world where they're constantly in a fishbowl, right? And so if someone tells me they're anxious, I always err on the side of believing them. Whereas I think OCD is slightly different, because I think OCD, it's like,
It's very obvious. If
But yeah, there's a miscounteracted. I think when it interrupts your daily life, you feel physical symptoms. And this is why talking therapy services are so important, because I think there's so much misinformation out there. There's so much there is a group of people that deny they have symptoms, and the people that are hyper aware of symptoms. And there is a definitely middle ground here where we can talk about things and go, are you anxious, or genuinely, like, I shouldn't use the term, so I'm not going to, but like, there are generally people who have like hard lives, and like being depressed is a natural side effect of having a hard life. So for example, we don't diagnose depression close to like a big so someone losing someone in their family, right? We do, like that's grief. That is grief. Like,
but grief and depression are the same thing inherently, aren't they? Not
they're not the same thing in terms of depression is
how they show up though.
Yes,
they can look
Your body only has a few ways of showing sadness, right? But the cause is different, right? And if I went around going, someone who's lost a family member is depressed, diagnosed depression, the treatment are the same, but the stimulus is there, right? You're supposed to feel sad, right? But what you were describing about, like, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I've done the things, I should get the points. Do you see what I mean? Like when you play a game and you're like, well, I still feel empty. I feel hopeless, right? That's different. That often is more insidious. Like if actually, I think people find that more uncomfortable. I have to find patients scaffold their depression through attribute to things that happened to their lives, right?
Right.
So why am I depressed? Something happened. So I'm actually not depressed. I'm actually reacting to this has happened. Whereas when there's the moment for me, genuinely, when I see people, the most is like, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I've got that job promotion. Like that next stepism.
It's kind of like what you were saying earlier with your journey, where you kept on going and going and going. You thought, I need to get the house, I need to get the kids, I need to get the marriage, and then that's it. I'm going to be happy on the other side of it. But it didn't quite work out like that for you.
No, and I think it's because all of those things were external things. I never actually changed.
Where was the internal?
There was no internal work going on. It was due out of duty. And I think men have this thing of duty where it's like, regardless of what the environment says, I have to provide these things, right? And because I'm skilled and my skills relate to a particular type of capitalism, which allows me to buy a house at the end of doing it. But there are many men who work just as hard in terms of physical force,
so like,
but they don't have the ability to buy a house at the end of their work, right? So I achieved I literally went from finding out my son was on the way, saving X amount, buying a house, getting a promotion, having all my savings, had all the things. And then one day I stopped, and I think might have been the gap was two years. My son was born September 2015. By December 2017, I felt like I had, what am I doing?
Wow.
And so I went into this place of like trying to find new areas to grow into. But really, it was a distraction from the obvious, which is like, I'm not happy. Why?
Yeah.
So that's when I started asking men, like, when you've done your thing, what happens after that, right? Because I just thought at the end of it was just love and abundance and connection. and purpose and clarity, all these great adjectives that describe a state, but none of them were present.
No.
So I one of the things that I did learn is that how you win matters to the people around you.
Explain.
I don't think the way that I was winning was warm, loving, and connected to the people who were around.
Right.
So I was just winning, and yes, it's for my family, but they didn't enjoy it.
No.
They weren't along the ride. They weren't like, I wasn't coming home and being like, guys, Dad, what's happening?
That's what I mean.
It was like, hey, Dad. And then it was like, stuff was happening over there. And I'd like go into the kitchen and like dinner's happening. And I would sit in the kitchen and be like, I feel weird here.
It's the world that we live in today, and what is seen as like, oh, that's success. Like, because so many people always go on about like the money and the house and I've traveled to this location, and yeah, you can create memories within some of those things without a doubt. Like throughout life, it's a part of it. But also, it's like you being present and showing up, you being happy, you coming home with energy, you being able to like be that life and soul in the room. That's the moments where I would consider personally for me, like that's an element of success. Like,
so what's really interesting now is that my daughter was the catalyst because she was the one that we didn't put me down, was my mum. But now obviously she's 8 and much older. She says, I love you so much.
That's so
right?
sweet.
Nice.
Like it's arrived in a way, and I don't always like talking about it because I'm so grateful that I'm there. I don't even want energetically to disturb it in the universe. Like I don't want to create a ripple of a conversation that somewhere means down the line I don't get it, because the feeling was the opposite, and now it's so pro dad.
Yeah.
And so none of that came with what I bought. None of it came with the house that we were in, the car that we were in. It came from being still with my actual children and being present. And now they talk to me with such love and affirmation. Like my son wrote me a beautiful letter. If I cry, do not react, because I just genuinely, I just remembered it. He wrote me this beautiful letter where he was like, whenever I'm unclear, you make me feel safe, or something like that, something to that effect. And I was like, I don't even know where you found that language and then made that observation, right? And I that is what I wanted from the beginning. But the information wasn't there to get there, and only therapy got me like still enough to ask the question. So things like going to silent retreat was way down the line. What I needed was an interruption to the script that I had that wasn't working. And then when that landed, so many great things happened.
Part of that building process, I feel like so say for example, if somebody's grafting away trying to get to that idea, that utopia life, that the house, the car, everything like that, and then once I achieve that, then that's happiness. That graft doesn't actually go away in any way you are in your life. It doesn't mean that so work on yourself internally and then you'll get that quicker. It doesn't mean like work a million hours under the sun and then you'll get there quicker. It's like you would much rather, on the journey to be in there, be happy, be present, process it within yourself. You're still going to have to do that journey. So would you rather do it feeling a bit more secure within yourself and dedicating some time to yourself, or being the tired person coming home that's stressed out and miserable? And I think it's the minute you can come to terms with that I'm still going to have to do that journey. It's just about how I do that and what state I'm in is the more important thing to consider.
It's so interesting, because my biggest worry are men between 40 and 30, right? So I think 30 to 50, life will make you have to pose questions. What we want is that in that moment they don't go away from things and they go into this process, right? I worry more about the men closer to the 50 mark, because generationally, they just have a completely different outlook and they come from a different era, and the idea of it just doesn't sit right with them. So many of them. And I think it's really important that even this conversation probably would look at us and feel like, what are they saying over there? In a way that maybe they wouldn't for other things. So this is actually quite sick that we're discussing this.
It depends. What do you define as winning, right? Because for me, I mean, when you were both talking, I said like, you're essentially saying that what's winning is what that process does to your character. Essentially, because everything that we view as success should be a surrogate for your character. Like getting promoted is because you've shown parts of your character that mean that you're a person worth promoting, right? Buying a house isn't about having a house. It's about the character traits that meant that you thought having a house was valuable, right? So if that process destroys your character, then what is the point, right? There's some people that achieve things, and I've seen it. I've chatted to
But at the cost of what?
of their just like, because if you have to, I I know loads of like and thankfully I even this present company standing, I've met lots of successful people, right? And there are people who have changed themselves to be successful, and they're on this treadmill and they're going to be top people, and you're like, at what cost though? Like will you look back at the years between 30 and 50 and go, the things that have made me who I am? I'm really fortunate, and I only think that like I've always been enjoyed being a doctor, right? But the parts of being a doctor that I'm really proud of are the bits that make me kinder.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Like the money can come and go, but like I'm glad that I spent most of my formative years trying to help people.
Yeah. Is there a thing that specifically is blackness? You talked earlier about culture, and I think it's important to explore because we do have, and it actually depends on West African culture, South African culture, East African culture, Caribbean culture, being transported into a particular market at a particular time. Is it a thing where it's like black people are taking therapy different compared to everybody else? Is there something in our culture that prevents it?
I actually think it's, we spoke about this before. I think it's about your perception of healthcare.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
If you don't believe it's for you, you don't trust the system. We saw it. We even forget mental health, physical conditions, right? That engaging with, like, we have high incidence of prostate cancer, we have high incidence of heart attacks. Engaging with healthcare for the black community is low because historically and culturally we don't believe it's for us. So the mental health aspect, and because of that, our outcomes are worse. So like, I will speak to young men as patients and know the verdict. I know what's going to happen if you do not focus on yourself, and it comes out in anger. It comes out in putting things that aren't valuable as the next target. Because once you get that, it's fine when you keep getting, you described, Marv, like getting to the mountaintop and being like, well, I'm sad. I've got the best view in the world and I'm still sad, right? And you would be able to talk to a 19, 20-year-old and go, okay, cool, want all the things I want. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have a nice house and stuff like that. But like, how are you? That was the first question you asked.
Yeah, for real. I think it's interesting you touched upon like different regions, where it comes from. And for example, like when I spoke to my dad, his Jamaican dad, when I first told him, I was like, oh yeah, so I'm at therapy. Like, what do you mean you're at therapy? And it's like that initial reaction, because like my dad's then grown up in this generation where it's like, nah, you ain't got to do that. You got to dust it off. You got to be the man. Like we were talking about earlier. And I think it's ever so more important for us to have these conversations like we're doing now, so that any man under the age of 50 can look at it and go, because I mean, look, the biggest killer of men under the age of 50 is suicide, right?
It comes out.
But the only way for you to like sort of counteract that is to normalize these conversations that we're having right now, and it not be such a taboo when somebody says, oh, listen, I'm going therapy, or I'm really struggling mentally at the moment, or how are you? Like those sort of questions there. I think it's so important, because it's the only way that you can change that narrative. Because, you know, also, there's no offense to my dad, but you know, he's over the age of 50 now, and he's gonna be sitting there looking at it, and it's like you can't really unpick so much that's already gone on in your life, adapting to the times. Do you know what I mean? Those viewpoints.
Yeah, sometimes I had this conversation with my boy actually, and he was like, when you talk about older people, sometimes there's too much water on the bridge and they don't want to confront that, because then you have to accept that you have to go back. It's really hard to turn that ship around. It is. If you're 65 and someone goes, by the way, the way you've lived your life,
I ain't doing that.
The best. You're so invested in the game. You're so invested in the game. That like it's not worth. It isn't like. In fact, for them, it's protective.
What role could a talking therapies play for someone that's that built into their belief system, like they're that stuck? Can you like, I'm just thinking about the people that are actually trying to seek help and they're really struggling, because we just spoke then about a group of people maybe in their 50s, 60s that have hardened in their life, and it's like,
I wouldn't say hardened, I would say it's there.
Maybe there's like a resistance. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Is there like a very clear way of like investigating what those anxieties are, what those conditions are for them? And Because some of it may not be about their historic story. It might be just something that's happening for them now. Like we all now have like an economic anxiety about, you know, we may not have an economy by the end of this podcast, to be fair. So, you know, what, like there is just a genuine what's happening now. Could they go in for that to find out what's real? Because when I went in, they told me like, what's real? They asked me, how are you? And I went through this whole list of things. It was like my brother this, my mum this, my sister this. And then they were like, well, how much of that applies to you directly? How much of that is in your control? And what's real? And then when I asked him, what do you mean by what's real? He was like, well, if we were to think of like a test of reality, right? Did someone say something to you? Or did it just happen around you? And I had to sit there and feel like, do you know what? Most of that stuff is just stuff. It's like atoms clashing, right? I can't control atoms clashing, but I can make a meaning out of the atoms clashing, and I can say that it's happening to me.
To you.
And it's not happening to me. It's just happening, right? So some reframing of some things about like, if you feel you have an economic insecurity, is that real though? Like, is someone actually come up to you and said your job is at risk? Or do you just feel like it's at risk because someone said, oh, AI is going to take all the jobs, and you were like, it could probably take my job, but no one said anything. Nothing's come out of it. So there is a bit of a role in a way of workable ideas of what's going on right now that have nothing to do with the history. It's just kind of like, yo,
it's identifying what's real and what's not.
That's the and like I said at the start, so when you are mentally ill, unwell. The organ in which you need to do that is the one that's affected. So you need someone who's a professional. And that's the benefit, right? It's you were saying that you could chat to your mum, but she's not professional, and that's great. Having a support and having someone who is very good at picking out, because it's not unreasonable to feel sad after something bad has happened. It is unreasonable to attribute your sadness to something that isn't real. Does that make sense? Like, our brains are very good at making excuses for the way we are.
Yes. They just make a lot of meaning.
Like,
I found my brain like my mind telling me this is what like concluding on my behalf.
Oh gosh.
And I was like, yo,
that's crazy.
What are you doing that for?
Innit? Like, I didn't ask you for that.
Shut up, man.
Tyler, I'm super interested. When you went through your experience, was you ever formally diagnosed or labeled with anything? And did you make a meaning out of what that was? Or was it just, you go through this process, we're sitting down with you and go back into the world? What was that? What happened?
When therapy for me didn't work straight away, when I was 14, I went to the therapy session, and again, it was like, it kind of just threw me off. It made me feel uncomfortable. I didn't want to talk about my emotions. That was my main thing when I was trying to handle my emotions. I didn't want to talk about it. I was like, let me just sweep it under the carpet. But as we all know, when that happens, the carpet gets a mountain high, and then all of a sudden it has to come out at some point. I got into sport. That kind of like helped me sort of get my mind. It gave me a bit of free time away from overthinking things. So that was the sort of thing that helped me balance out a little bit. And until the carpet just let itself out, and I got to a real low point where I was going through a phase, and it was suicidal. And it was at that point I realized I needed help, right? And it was at that point then I started going back to therapy years later. And I think it's a really hard one, because like I said to you before, like the emotions I went through then I couldn't understand, but then now I'm older, I completely understand them. And out of all of, when I started going back to therapy, having a professional sit opposite you and say, hey, listen, this is happening. You're not going crazy. Like, this is happening because what you've gone through is something that some people go their whole lifetime without seeing, right? Not everybody walks down the street and sees somebody murdered in front of them. And so then I got diagnosed with PTSD, and it was because I'll explain some of the emotions and I'm not going to affect you. So in those years that I was like socially anxious, refusing to come out of my bedroom, I was there and I was like, if I don't make my bed in the morning, this ain't a bad habit to have. I'm joking about it now, but it was not funny at the time. But if I don't make my bed in the morning, something bad's going to happen to me. I was convinced, right? I was convinced if things didn't go in an order, that sort of taps into the OCD element of it all. It was weird. It was a trigger effect that I had to go through all these different phases and emotions. I had to make my bed, otherwise something bad was going to happen to me. I couldn't walk on that side of the road, otherwise something bad was going to happen to me. If anybody around me was under the influence of drugs or alcohol, oh my days, somebody's going to die. Like I was convinced. Even when, and then the triggers sort of that would happen, even to this day, they affect me. Like if I'm watching a movie and then all of a sudden there's a massive fight scene and then a guy just gets stabbed up. I'm going, like, honestly, my fiance, Molly, she covers my eyes because she knows it affects me. Like I can deal with it. I can watch it. I can be a part of it. But then I'll go into a bit of a phase after for like an hour after where I'm like just a bit quieter, like because it's just brought stuff to the surface. It makes everything sort of boil over. PTSD is one of those things that it doesn't ever get easier. You just have ways to manage it a bit better. And that's how I've kind of seen anything with my mental health, is that like it never actually gets easier. You just come up with these tools and different ways of management.
After this has now been shared around the world, what would you like to see changed in the people that have watched this, based on who they were before they watched this, and then now what do they actually leave with? What's your advice to them?
I think that it's kind of goes back to the reason why where I started benefiting from talking and going to therapy. The job I do today is wild, right? If you would have told 14-year-old me that you're going to be presenting on national radio, you're going to be doing Strictly Come Dancing, you're going to be on TV, you're going to be all here, there and everywhere, and everybody always comes up to me like, oh yeah, you're so smiley, you're so confident, you're so talkative. I never used to be this person. The things that I went through with my mental health, and I vouch for this, all of the things that I went through changed the course of my life, and I wouldn't be here doing the things that I'm doing if I hadn't have been honest with myself and been vulnerable to talk about it. I think it starts with that one step. The minute that you can open up about how you feel, the things that you're going through, it's a step closer to some form of healing. And it is different. We said at the start, it's different case by case with different people. Like what worked for me may not necessarily work for you, but the one thing that I always took away from it is that if I've tried to, some people say, go to the gym. Try go to the gym. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, cool. Well, then I'm going to try go therapy. Okay, that didn't work. All right, then I'm going to try go group therapy, or I'm going to try go do meditation. Or there's so many different options out there. But it's like you said, it starts internal, and it starts in how willing you are to go and experience all of them. What worked for me back then when I was going sport all the time, that was giving me a bit of free time, allowed me the free time to be able to process my emotions and then be prepared and ready to go back to therapy. And then now therapy, I see it as more of like a maintenance thing, whereas then me having honest conversations like that with the people around me and saying, hey, listen, I'm not okay right now. I have the confidence and I have the skill set to be able to do that.
That's dope.
So I think it's taking that first initial step seems so daunting, but then when I think back, all the good things that have come from my life from then wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have done it.
Big question to close. Which of the mental health language would you use to explain your team's footballing performance this season?
Erratic.
Okay. Erratic. Hopeless. I'll go there.
That's good, man. Are you out of every trophy? There's nothing to win. Just want to double check.
How long we got left?
6 weeks.
No, how long we got left of this?
Oh. Dope. Thank
Your
you so
season
much.
was over a couple of months ago.
Yeah,
so
I know. I know.
By the way, you look 2% like your manager, which is cute.
Yeah. You boy there. You boy.
He was so respectful the whole podcast as well.
I had to get that in there. Thank you so much as the guests. I really, really appreciate them coming through and having this conversation. If any of these conditions are impacting your life, you can find out more about NHS Talking Therapies by going to nhs.uk/talk. NHS Talking Therapies is a free service, and you can refer yourself on nhs.uk/talk.